to see if it comes up or not. Just keep refreshing my feed and see how we go. What's the weather like in Canada right now?
Cold. I think it's like -8 today. Yeah.
Jeez. Is that Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Celsius.
Celsius. Yeah, you guys use Celsius in Canada, don't you?
Yeah, and actually on Wednesday morning it got up to 10 degrees Celsius, and then by night it was back down to -10. So it's just fluctuating a ton. Yeah.
It's like the state where I grew up in, Tasmania. It's like an island state.
Yeah.
And it's cold. But one of the reasons I liked it is that if you wake up in the morning and it's 7 degrees, it's going to be like 12 by the end of the day. So you know that it's at least consistent. But here in Melbourne, you can wake up, it can be 8 degrees at 6 a.m. and then like 45 by like 2 p.m.
Jesus Christ.
So, like I hate that. I hate that variance. Like I used to be in Air Force cadets for a long time, and used to come over to this state where I live now every year, and it would just kill you because you'd rug up so much in the morning. Because I was one of the senior cadets, so I'd get up at 4:30 and wake everyone else up at 5:30 so they could get ready. And at that time it's like 4 degrees, and then by lunchtime it's like 25, and you're sweating like you got way too many layers on, and you're standing like in boots in the sun doing drill, and you're just sweating like nothing else. Not a good time. Not a good time. Has the stream come up for you now?
On my LinkedIn, yes, but I have no clue how to share it. Do you just send me a link on Discord, or?
No, I'm just waiting for mine. It's come up for you, but not for me, funnily enough. So obviously my LinkedIn doesn't like me.
Yeah, it says there's currently 10 people in there, but I don't see anything in chat or anything.
Fantastic. Just give me a sec and I'll find it too. Yeah, I got it here. I'll make sure it's on mute. We've got 13 people coming already, which is awesome. There's always this teething process when we start every single time, but it's all the fun with it.
Yeah, I think I shared it now on my link on my side. So
awesome. I'll tweet it out as well now while we go on. We got some good engagement, some good questions. Obviously, I guess the best place to start is like I remember tweeting out a while ago and writing on Facebook. It did quite well, and I didn't want to tag you because I didn't want to give away your secrets. I said, hey, we're working with this 17-year-old who's now 18, which is you, in Canada. He did 300K revenue in 1 month, which is almost unbelievable. And everyone's like, who? And I was like, I don't, like, on one side, I don't want to be that guy that just tweets things that look fake. To be like, I had a great meeting with the Prime Minister today. Like, can't wait for the future of esports. Like, people do that. But also, and I want to be genuine and true, but also I don't want to be like, hey, I know this guy's numbers, and I'm just going to unearth them so someone can come and, I don't know, rob you.
Yeah, I hope not. Hopefully not. Hopefully my things are secure, but
exactly. Well, it's too cold.
It's too cold to do that stuff, man. Wait till summer.
Is that why everyone's so nice in Canada? Because it's just
yeah.
You just want to get past people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
try to do good deeds before the winter hits them.
Fantastic. We got a few people jumping in the chat now. So we got Avarind, Chris Kisak's back again, and Avarind's back again, and Shane.
Yeah.
Shane, I think it's your first time here, which is awesome, mate. Good to see you. So, Kieran, first question, mate. Tell us a bit about your history. Like we've already given a bit of an introduction on LinkedIn and live. So let us know a bit more about yourself.
Yeah. So a bit about myself. I've been in the gaming, like involved in it and esports for about 4 years, like solidly. But I've been watching videos since I was a young kid. Obviously, I just turned 18. So I was 4 years ago, I was like 14, 13. So I started my YouTube channel back in May of 2014, posted my first ever video, came back about 4 months later, 5 months later. I was something in October or September. The video had 400K views, had a decent amount of money in my AdSense. Showed my parents, they told me I've been scamming over the internet, doing credit card scams or something like that. So
no faith.
But I try to tell them that, this is where I made the money. And I saw, well, my first video got 400K views. I have some type of potential, or I kind of know what I'm doing. And I was 14 at the time, so I thought I knew everything, but I didn't know anything. So from then I uploaded 2 months in a row. And from that 2 months consistently, I made around 96,000 subscribers. And I posted maybe 40 videos, 50 videos in those 2 months, and amassed around 8 to 10 million views. So I liked it at that time, and then people at my school found out about it, and then I was like kind of getting turned off by making videos. I was doing my French exam actually, and one of the kids or guys in my school played the video on the big flat screen in class, like the smart boards, and I just lost it. And then fast forward a bit, I kind of stayed out of esports and stuff for a little bit because I don't know, I was just not involved. I was watching videos regularly, watching tournaments and stuff. And then this year in January, I was contacted by a Chinese streaming platform called Nono Live. So they had investors and partners from Alibaba and the phone company Huawei. And I was contacted by a guy to do kind of contract work for the Australian market, actually, to get them streamers. And they were offering something like $40,000 per month USD. So, and it was a 12-month contract per streamer. So I got 3 or 4. Well, they asked me, do you have a business? And I told them yes. So, but I didn't have, because I had to do legal stuff. So at that time, I had to make my mom could register a business for me, get all that stuff done within about a week. Decided on the name Elusive, got free branding from a guy, kept it like that ever since. I don't know where I got the name from. And then from there, I've been just kind of doing influencers, just kind of going with the flow, trying to learn things, meeting people like yourself, that are leaders in the industry, and kind of just learning from you guys, other people, just trying to learn as much as possible. And then now I'm here talking to you again and doing some great work with you. So
yeah, exactly. It's funny, I didn't know that much about your YouTube history, and thinking about that, your history from making videos into managing is very similar to how many people get into the esports industry. I started off as a top level player here in Australia, and so many people did. Patrick Satterman, who's a chief gaming officer at Fnatic, who's also a friend of mine, and spent a lot of time in Taiwan together. Same thing. He captained the Fnatic CS 1.6 team for like 8-10 years, and now he leads all of the teams. It's basically all the team managers report into him. And it's funny to see that transition. Do you think you'll ever go back to making videos, or are you just going to sit on the other side of the fence?
Actually, I've been thinking about it recently. A kid told me, he's 15 years old. He was making Fortnite videos. I'm not going to name him, but he made $60,000 this month from YouTube, and an extra 15K on merchandise. And the guy's 15 years old, and he was talking to me about, he's one of my clients, and he was talking to me about him going into properties after he files his taxes this year, because this year was the first year he kind of blew up. And so his mom was an agent in real estate and stuff. So seeing young kids like that, making that much money and being successful like that kind of gave me some motivation to maybe go back in the future. But I really like what I'm doing now with the influencers, and I like building relationships with people. So I think that's super important.
Yeah, it's so I don't know if heartwarming is the right word, but I talked to Jeff Pabs from this, the chief revenue officer at FaZe Clan, and I can't remember if it was on the podcast or off the podcast, but I'm sure he's happy with me talking about this. And one of my questions was, how do you set up your guys for the future? Obviously FaZe has had some 13-year-old content creators that are making bank. They're easily making, similar to the numbers you were saying. And the concern always is, as you see, I guess, with millennial influencers, is spending it all on hiring Bentleys, on renting apartments they can't really afford, on Gucci Yeezys, flying first class, stunting on people with Rolexes. And, they might be making 500 grand a year, but they're spending 350 of that, and the rest goes to tax. Or they're not paying tax, which is some situations. I've had some influencers I've worked with in the past who are like, I need to make some money because I've got to pay 100 grand in tax, which is not the right place to be. But like you were saying about that guy who we've talked about before going into property, similar to what Jeff was saying, that he's talked to a lot of his younger talent about. They're putting a lot of their money into stocks and bonds. Yeah, exactly. They're portioning it out. And I guess it's not rocket science, but it's not something that's ever taught to you. Like when I worked at Corsair full time, I was employed at home, and I had a whole formula that I knew. Whenever my wage got in, I put a certain amount of money away to a house/car account, depending on which one it is. I put a certain amount of money away to an emergency savings account. I put extra into my superannuation, which in Australia, that's your retirement fund. And then I had a certain amount kind of in spending. But I think that, people, you're in school now, right? You're not really taught to do things like that, money management.
No, I kind of learned it from a being like from my parents. I haven't bought anything, crazy like those Rolex. I don't see the value in it right now. Being able to, spend that much money.
Mm.
Like even with sports, like traditional sports, you see NFL, NBA players, they play, make millions of dollars in those 5 years that they play for. They retire and they have no money, and they're living in a $10 million house, and they have no clue what they're doing. Even those guys at 30s, because all they're taught is to play basketball or play a certain sport. So
Yeah.
I think that's a super important what you just stated, to learn how to manage your money at a young age now, because it's getting easier and easier for kids to make millions of dollars now. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many, like you're saying, there's so many stories that I think it was Big Shaq that I learned about, where he signed his first, pre-signing bonus of like 10 million or something like that. He went and bought a Rolls Royce, drove it home. His dad said, "Where's mine?" They went back, bought an identical one for his dad, came back home. His mum said, "Where's my car?" So they went back and bought her a Bentley. And then, a month later, he tried to pay for something and it's like insufficient funds. It's like,
Oh my
what? Because
god.
it's more money than you could ever dream of.
Yeah.
And I guess it follows a similar thing. I did a podcast a while ago with our insurer, Thunder Insurance, who specializes in gaming and esports, because
Yeah.
it's a pretty niche area for insurance. And one of the questions I asked them was, what does like a $50 million public liability insurance actually mean? Because a lot of people won't earn $50 million in their lifetime. It seems like so much, but as with anything, you buy a couple of cars at $1 million, you buy a $10 million mansion, that kind of stuff. If you're making that kind of money, it goes real quick. Or there was a boxer they were talking about on Joe Rogan podcast as well. He bought a house that was so big that it cost $1 million a year just to upkeep. It was like a 30-bedroom house. He invited all of his family in. So, the grounds and the tax on the house and upkeep and all that kind of stuff, power, water, probably has 6 pools if it's that big. Imagine how big your water bill is. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Would you,
Wow.
yeah. So I guess that leads me into the next question. We talked about this a bit before, right? So a super different thing I see in Fortnite influencers, who seem to be a lot of Gen Z, not so much millennial, because, for those people watching, like, you're more of in the Gen Z market. I'm more of millennial. I was born in 91. That the way they promote themselves online is so different. And it's a way that you've been able to see a lot of success as well. I think people who talk down about it would often call it engagement baiting type tweets, but also I think it's a great way to reach an audience and to grow. So to really make this question make sense, especially for the people who are watching, because you know what I'm talking about, is that quite often you'll see tweets from Fortnite people that just says like, the real grinders are awake right now, or they're giving away like $10 V-Bucks cards, or they're tweeting out something fake, like a guy that we're using for a promo with Unicorn upcoming through you just tweeted out like, "Yo, I just bought a Ninja PC for $199, which he knows is a troll, but it's engagement baiting to get people involved. And half the people replying know it's a troll and half don't. So can you touch on that a bit? Is that like a consensus that you guys talk about it? You just see other people did success and you did it too, or what?
Yeah, where I got that from, like you saw, like you said, I just saw these Fortnite guys just tweeting these weird, ridiculous kind of things sometimes. But I saw it was working. The engagement, the rate they had compared to a regular streamer or a Dota 2 streamer, like you said, or CS:GO, their engagements were insane. And with the Twitter algorithm, the more engagements you get, the more they push this out to newer people. So I kind of took that concept that they used for their engagement tweets, and I kind of applied it to what I'm trying to do with Twitter, which is obviously get creators and influencers and brands to work with me and kind of mesh it together. So it's on kind of the bridge of being cringy and like to the younger audience, but it also, like, if you're a decent human being, you'll kind of like engage with it and not turn me down for tweeting like a little kid, but it works for me. And ever since those tweets I've done, like you said, they've been getting really good engagements, over like 300,000 impressions, and I have 30K followers. So it's kind of going out there, and it's helped me tremendously with what I'm doing. And I think Twitter is very underused for business, I find. And I think in the future, Gen Zs will be using Twitter as a platform, as marketing and for their business. I think it's really important.
Yeah, 100%. And like touching on one thing that you said that I've been thinking about a lot is the purists, I guess. You were saying, like, you know, some older people, they say, oh, you're an idiot for posting, you know, these funny things or looking like a child. But it's the same thing that I've seen. There was a CSGO player that kind of flipped his lid on Twitter because Bugger made more money in one tournament than he's made in like 8 years of playing as a pro. I think like including his salary and prize pool. This guy made more in one tournament in prize pool. Yeah. And, you know, saying, oh, Fortnite kids, I hate them. The same way that skate parks or the BMX riders hate scooter kids and things like that. Yeah. But it's kind of like, you know, don't hate the player, hate the game. It's like if you are such a good player and you're playing CSGO, you should be in it for the passion as much as the prize pool. And if you are in it for the prize pool, well, then go chase the new games. Go to Overwatch where you can get a 100 grand salary. Go to League of Legends where you can get a 300K salary to play in the LCS at the start. Go to Fortnite where there's so many kids in Fortnite, even in Australia, who are winning 30, 60, 80 grand over their period so far. And they're like 14, 15, 16 years old. Yeah. And there's these stalwart, you know, Counter-Strike Go players who've been playing since CS 1.6 that haven't won 80K over the past 10 years. But, you know, these guys like Slayer from the Chiefs and I think it was from the Chiefs and Parpy and people like that and Volks, you know, they're winning these kind of numbers and they've been a pro gamer for 6 months, probably a year. So, you know, and they've got 3 times the amount of Twitter followers. So
yeah, exactly. I've spoken to Volks and Parpy there. I mean, they're great dudes. You know, they told me that they've just finished high school. He made over $100,000 in earnings already in under 6 months. Yeah, wow. It's ridiculous what these guys can do. You know, over the past 2 months, his Instagram and social has reached over 30,000, 40,000 now. And they're doing great. So, I mean, yeah, you're right with what you're saying about either it's passion or it's money, and you have to choose which option you're going to do. So I wanted to be a pro player all my life kind of, but I was never that guy I just accepted the fact that even if I tried my hardest, I wasn't going to be that. I just didn't have it in me. And I always think that pro players have something in them that gives them that extra skill or that mindset of a pro gamer. And man, I just never had that. So I just took what I liked, which is business, applied it with esports, what I really love, and I made a business out of it. So that's kind of what I did.
And it's so stressful being a player. You know, like when I was a semi-pro and wanted to be the best in the world, all I could ever think about was playing the game. Like I'd be out at dinner with my friends and I'd be thinking, damn, I should be at home practicing right now. And, you know, you're always nervous and you're always on edge about your performance. You know, there's always so much. And like I talked to a guy, like we never got along when we played. Our team were kind of arch enemies, but Sponge, who's an international CSGO analyst and commentator now, talked to him at the Intel Extreme Masters tournament last year and said, you know, do you miss being a player? Because he was with Renegades overseas playing full-time from Australia, etc. And he said, no, I don't miss it. It's so stressful. Like now he can just screw around. He can say funny stuff. He can tweet what he wants. He doesn't have sponsors that are on his back to deliver things for him. You know, he goes along to events. Or, you know, my chat with Toby One, Dota on the podcast as well is saying, like, when he's at a tournament, often he's only on for 3 hours. And that's it. You know, he gets the limelight and he gets out of there. He doesn't have to worry about getting kicked from the team or his salary being paid or anything like that. But I guess another, like, major advantage, touching on what you were saying, is that the social media followers for these guys. It seems like as a Fortnite pro, you've got such a better outlook on life after gaming because the amount of followers you're going to have is so much higher than basically any other esport.
Yeah, exactly. That's 100% right with what you said. These Fortnite guys are racking up thousands of followers per day, especially they won, like, let's say Parpy winning these recent tournaments he has. Just by winning those, he's getting as much followers a month than some of these CSGO guys or other esports titles are getting in their entire career, like you're saying, in 8 years. So I think Fortnite brings that aspect of social reach as well as, you know, the money. So it kind of balances out with, you know, you have an opportunity to either pursue the competition and making the money if you're still the best player, or you can take the other route, which is influence, doing content. And since you have that reach already, you just have to kind of branch out to other platforms such as Twitch, YouTube, you know, Facebook now coming to buy these talents as well exclusively. I mean, it's going to be a big year for influencers and brands this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm just trying to look through some of the comments here as well to address some people. Obviously, we will be repurposing this into a podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast, I apologize as I try to read through some of these Noah Hankinson saying, "What's up? Good to see you here, mate. First time I think I've seen you in the chat, which is awesome." Shane is saying that Twitter's great for open communication and reach, whereas Facebook has tanked on organic reach. Man, that's so true. Like, I guess it makes me feel old, right? But when I got my first job in the industry working at Thermaltake, one of the MOs was to set up a Facebook page for it. So I took that page from 0 to 12,000 likes or something like that with basically zero budget. Or sorry, 0 to 21,000 likes, 22 over the period of 3.5, 4 years when I was there. And looking at the engagement, I went back and looked, and the amount of organic reach on 11,000 likes was more than the organic reach I was getting a few years later at 21,000 likes. And it's just made it like basically impossible. And what I find really weird and almost predatory about Facebook is all the time it sends you notifications like, hey, you could reach so many more people if you just gave me some money. And it's like, fuck you. What? I've got these likes. Let me talk to these people. They've specifically chosen to like my page. Yeah. They obviously want to see what I'm saying. And it's just made it, basically non-existent. Obviously, Facebook's trying to get into gaming and stuff now, but so many of the talent I work with don't even have a Facebook page. Do you find exactly the same thing?
Yes, but the issue I have is the money's tempting, man. I've seen offers from Facebook that are ridiculous. People with 100 viewers are getting offered $6K a month USD. They have 100 viewers. It's insane. So seeing those type of offers is hard because some talents are not passionate about it and will do it. They won't deliver. They won't do things. Will cause bad reputation between us and the brand. So it's hard to kind of reject a 300K offer for a year, right? But at the same time, you got to realize you haven't used Facebook since you were about 8 years old. So it's difficult, man. And I try to tell the creators, like, listen, there's 150K for you on the table, but that means there's a ton of opportunities elsewhere for you. And I think that you should really think about it and consider, do you kind of have like somewhat of a liking for this brand, at least a minimum amount, or there's no point of doing it. And I think it's not healthy for both either the influencer or brand if they do go into that kind of locked up contract, So, but I mean, the money does look nice. I'm gonna have to agree on that one.
Yeah. And just like you were saying, there was a report that came out yesterday that Shroud, after he switched from Twitch to Mixer, I think, correct me, you might know this, was he the number one on Twitch overall, or number two, something like that?
Yeah, on subs, I think he was number one for a long time. And also on views, he was racking up like 40,000-60,000 average. He went to, I think, Mixer, and now he's less than 5,000, I heard. I don't know if it's right. But
the numbers were something like 80% of his Twitch audience didn't move over, but his overall drop in viewership is about 60%. So some people who are native to Mixer came to him, obviously, but only 15% of his viewers basically left, 15 to 20 left Twitch to come watch him. And the other stat I saw was that before he left Twitch to go to Mixer, he had more viewership himself than all of Mixer combined. It was like 1.6 times maybe or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the size of his contract was, obviously, but it must have been huge for him to move from Twitch to Mixer. I know he was obviously making a decent amount of money, at least 250K a month off of subs alone, I think, around that somewhere. So he must have gotten a huge contract to go to Mixer, and just seeing that kind of viewership drop is kind of disappointing, because what we're trying to do in esports is obviously grow it and have that community, and seeing them kind of decrease over time and seeing like this thing is not working out and things, it's not what I like to see. I genuinely like when brands and influencers work on because they like each other. They like the content, and the influencer likes the brand, not because the money. And I think that's a huge issue with influencers. Once they see that money, they want to do it. And I've seen it a lot with my talent, but I try to build a relationship with my talent to the point where they don't do those decisions anymore, where they'll take the money over the liking or how much they like the brand, right? Where the brand's reputation and the brand's kind of thing outweighs the money. And I tell them, like, listen, man, is this really what you want to get into? Because I show them, stuff like Shroud or brands that I've seen before happen. I say, you don't want to be this next guy. I'm just protecting I'm protecting the brand's brand, obviously, and I'm also protecting the influencer's kind of career of not losing that and getting a lot of people get demotivated like I did when my views went down. My views went down from like average of 18,000 when I was at my peak, or 20K. I got 2 videos to 1 million and back to back, and I dropped to like 50K, and I just quit YouTube because I thought my audience is gone. But I was just lucky. So
Yeah,
some people just get demotivated with the views and stuff. So that's harsh too.
Yeah, and it's so true. I mean, I'm going through. I went through a massive peak in LinkedIn views, and now it's tapered off and dropped a little bit. And you find that you always tell yourself like, "No, I'll just keep grinding away. Won't affect me at all." And then you look through and you're like, "Shit, I used to get 40, 60 likes per post, and now I'm getting 30 to 40." And it's like, "Come on, what's going wrong? Is it me? Is it the algorithm?" And you start questioning everything. Is it the content? Is it me? Am I not networking enough? Am I not adding enough people? Like, I don't know. But sometimes I think you just got to weather the storm, and then you go back, and I think you realize that, oh, hey, it's just the algorithm that's changed slightly, and I need to change my content, or I need to upload more, or change something a little bit. Maybe there was a challenge I was doing that was boosting. But hey, back to the Facebook chat you were talking about, and I guess to talk about again what I was saying is mainly we're talking about pages and people, right? And saying that it's a bit shit. But a great thing for Facebook is groups. Fantastic. So if anyone does really want to build a hyper engaged, closed off audience, a group is a fantastic way to do it. Like a super quick case study, I have what I think is the largest Pokemon Go group in the world, Pokemon Go Melbourne. So it's hyper localized because it's about Melbourne. So that's a great thing in itself. We've got, looking at the stats here, we've got 38.6 thousand members. We've got 41.9 thousand post comments and reactions in the last 28 days. And we've got about 29,000 active monthly users. And I do nothing. It just goes by itself. We've also got a Oceania esports and gaming business Facebook group that I use a lot. And, that's a similar, not a similar size, but much more engagement. I've only ever had to ban, I think, like 3 from that group. 2 of them are bots, and one guy started calling everyone, cucks and, just throwing slurs around like an idiot. So obviously I had to get rid of him. But, that's got 2,500 members, and it's just nonstop filled with helpful people that are, looking to share information. So I think, everything has a time and a place, right? Like Twitter's great for engagement. It's great for reaching out to people. Like you're much more likely to get PewDiePie to reply to you on Twitter than you are anything else. Especially Instagram, because Instagram almost hides comments. It's really hard to see them. And Facebook's great for that interaction, community building, development, and that kind of stuff. What about Instagram for your guys? Like, we've talked pretty much only about Twitter.
Twitter is the main kind of gaming hub for my influencers. That's where they kind of go to. But Instagram is learning with other industries, with like beauty and travel and things like that. I've learned that there's a lot of opportunities that you can use either Instagram to either promote brands. So some of my goals is to get those influencers on Instagram and build their audience, because some of these guys have millions of subscribers on YouTube and hundreds of thousands on Twitter, but they're lacking that Instagram side with like 3,000 followers. So I think diversifying your content on all platforms. I know it could be hard and stressful and all that things. You're busy. Everyone's busy. I get it. But I think if you do that, it can be super beneficial for your career in the future, especially with TikTok coming out. I've seen a lot of these gaming guys get on TikTok. One of the guys I was talking to, he's a Fortnite creator, blowing up right now. I'm working with him a little bit on the side. Our last 3 or 4 of his videos have done 1 million views on TikTok, and he's gained over, I think, 120,000 on YouTube this month. I don't know if that's with the help of it, but I'm sure with 1 million views, I'm sure that he's getting some type of impressions or something with those TikTok videos and things like that. So I think it's super important to diversify your content across all social media platforms. I'm seeing a lot of people, young kids like myself, on LinkedIn now. I recently got it this year. I should have jumped onto it in January, but I got it around July, and I'm over 10,000 connections now, and I've met great people like yourself and people that I never thought I would have met in the industry, right? So I think it's super important to kind of connect with all platforms and all communities across those platforms as well.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And look, to cap off the Shroud conversation we were talking about before, obviously the reason that most people say, because people always say, why then, if he's going to drop in viewership, he's going to be on a different platform, he won't like as much, why would he sign? And it was the same reason that Ninja talked about moving as well, was that you get the safety net. You don't have to stream 7 days a week. You don't have to be working 12 to 16 hours a day like a lot of these people do, to keep audiences happy, because when you're not streaming, you're losing money, basically. It's like every minute you sleep, you're losing dollars. And it's weird because it's not like it's not like you're ever maintaining. You're either losing money or you're making money. There's nothing in between. So at least then, if you're able to get a payment like you said before, you've heard about Facebook paying $6K a month, something like that. $6K a month is like, that's a good wage for most people in most professional jobs. So it's a great way for you to supplement your income. And it's a great way to build a base load. And that's, there's a few things that I always suggest to people who want to quit their job. Like I was saying before, when I was at Corsair, I wanted to make my own company. So I saved as hard as I could and had those different kitties. So I made sure I had emergency savings. I made sure I had some other car funds and this kind of stuff that I could have in case of emergency. The same way that when I was at university, but also, running my own creation and doing a lot of tech seminars and that kind of stuff, the income I had from being a journalist, that was my base load. I knew that I had to write a certain amount of articles per month, and that would guarantee me a certain amount of money, which is maybe like $2,000 or something like that. That will pay my rent, my food, my utilities, and everything else was, cream on the top after that. So at least that, something like Mixer, that can help provide you with that base load as you then grow.
Yeah. It kind of just gives you that security of knowing that you're guaranteed this amount, this every month. So it kind of gives you that, all right, I don't have to work as hard as I would have if I was still on Twitch, where it's literally the more you stream, the more money you make. So with Mixer and Facebook, I know some of Facebook stuff was like 4 days a week, 20 hours a week, 1 day on the weekend. So you'd stream 4 days a week, and in those 4 days a week, you have to stream for 20 hours, one on the weekend, and you're doing that for a month, and you're getting $6,000 guaranteed. I mean that's what's sucking these influencers in, because it's security, and it's not laziness, but it's less work than they would have if they would have to stream on, let's say, Twitch, or where it's got to the point where I've seen smaller streamers, they have to stream 13 to 14 hours per day just to make a living off of it. So, and that's, I respect what you're doing, but I think that's going to take a toll on your body at one point where you're going to burn out. And I think everyone needs that break just to kind of, take a breather and reflect on what they're doing and seeing if it's healthy or not for themselves and for their career. So, that's kind of what I think about all of this type of stuff and contracts with streamers and streams platforms.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also the opportunity for growth, right? Like if you're one of the early people to jump on TikTok, like those are now who are doing it, the growth is exponential as new users come in, because you're looking for content to consume. Yeah. It's the same point for eFuse that Keemstar's promoting at the moment. You want to try to be the first person on there because you might get that creator tick, and people are going to look for someone to follow. When you download Instagram, for example, it gives you like 6 people to follow. One of them is Kim Kardashian. So you're likely to follow that person just because they're suggested to, because they're big already. And big attracts big. If you're on YouTube and you want to learn about the latest Dota 2 patch that came out yesterday, are you going to go to YouTube and then sort by lowest viewed? No way. Like, it's going to feed you the highest viewed, because you are then taught that, well, it's got to be quality. If there's 1 million people subscribed to this guy, he must know what he's talking about. His videos must be good. So I'm going to watch that. So like, you got to get in. Got to get in quick. You got to get in fast. And the TikTok thing's crazy that you were talking about, right? So the difference in earnings for viewership and followers on TikTok versus other platforms, it's just mind-boggling to me right now. And this is why I'm setting up a TikTok agency, and this is why I've asked you to help with a TikTok agency, for exactly this reason. Because you were saying some of these numbers, right? Like some of these 15-year-olds with a couple of 100,000 subscribers on YouTube are making like 50K a month, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I know TikTok people, one guy, for example, talked to him at PAX Australia. I think he's got 1 million subs on YouTube. He sees his 1.1 million followers on TikTok as useless. He makes $0 off them. He says being famous on TikTok is like being famous on Snapchat. What's the point? That was his words to me at the Twitch party at PAX. And then I know of others that are in TikTok who are 1 to 2 million followers that are making like $2,000 a month off that. However, I know other YouTubers who are at 1 million that are making 5 to 10 mil a year
Yeah.
And that's crazy. And they're getting similar views. You know, these people on TikTok, 50, 60, 70 million views a month. This guy's on YouTube, 50, 60, 70 million views a month. So that's crazy. One person is making $24,000 a year and one person's making 5 million. It's just two different platforms.
Yeah.
It seems like a civ opportunity to me. Same for you, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. I think there's a difference between, it's ridiculous what you just said. I mean, getting the same amount of views on same platform, but getting paid a margin of what other people are making on YouTube is absurd. And I think you capitalizing on making this agency with obviously who, and I don't want to say it, but with this person is you guys, if this goes correctly, you will be leaders in this industry, and it's going to be ridiculous what you guys are able to do in the next few years or so. It's going to be crazy to see.
So a question for you, the same thing. And this is a question that people ask for me all the time, and I want your answer. How do you go about pricing? So put TikTok aside, let's go with a more obvious base load like YouTube, which is always the default. How do you go about pricing with a creator? If a creator comes to you and says, hey, I've got X amount of followers, how much should I charge for a video? Do you have a standard, and what's that standard based on?
It depends. There's a lot of things that goes into it. Wow, that's a difficult question because I take a lot of things into consideration. I take what game is it, what product is it, what service is it, is what are the audience? So, that typical thing. But it's really difficult. I don't really have a fixed price for every platform. Obviously, like let's say they have to promote, for example, a hardware company. It would be different than promoting a clothing company, right? So taking that into consideration already gives me, kind of more of an understanding of how can I make money for the brand, but also value the influencer enough that he will be satisfied with what he or her is getting. So that's really difficult. So building relationship with the brand as well as the influencers to make sure that they both understand what they're getting out of it and why we're stating these numbers. For example, $1,000 for hardware. Where is this $1,000 coming from? It's coming from the audience. It's coming from his viewership. It's coming from here. And I kind of break it down cents by cents of where this is coming from and how exactly this brand can make this money back by using this influencer. So I kind of can't really explain it better than that. I know it's hard to kind of explain pricing to people because they don't really understand. Like, someone comes up to you and says, hey, why is your influencer making $10,000 per video? Well, here's why. His audience, he's able to make 10x or 2x to the company back that he's promoting. So there's different factors, and I always make sure that the brand that's approaching me or I'm approaching is going to get their value out of the influencer. For example, with the Fortnite guy, the deal that we did, I was pushing for more because I was valuing him as more of a creator, and which he was. But in the long run, it was going to benefit both the Unicorn as well as the Fortnite guy. So we kind of came together there, me and yourself. And now that we're working on multiple projects, I think that we both understood what the brand wanted and what the influencer wanted. So we kind of get together. And I don't like when, agents are like, you know what, I'm not doing it if it's less than that. Like, you have to be understanding. These guys have to make money back, Influencers just not chucking money at influencers and just getting, just making $10,000 for an influencer. The influencer needs to understand that they're trying to sell a product to their audience, and whether or not they believe in the product, and whether or not they think that they will make money back to the brand or whoever they're promoting.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And expanding on part of what you said, it's really about, to me, what the company is selling. I've worked in and for companies before where the product margin is 7.5% on the sale. So you're selling $100, you're getting $7.50. So there's no way you're going to pay the same amount depending on what revenue you can generate. There's no way you're going to pay the same amount if you're a digital only product. I talked about quite often in the past. I have a case study of an influencer being paid $75K USD, a CSGO YouTube channel, did a skin gambling video, drove $500K of revenue in 1 month and 30,000 account signups. But that skin gambling website, which at the time was legal but now basically shut down, they've got almost no overheads. They've got a couple servers. That's it. You know, they're
Yeah.
paying what, $1,000 a month or something like that. So their profit margin is like, and they had like 2 employees, maybe, who owned the company. So their margin is like 99.9%. So it's very different. You know, 500K at 99% margin, or $1 million at 99% margin is $990,000. However, $1 million at 7.5% margin is a very different amount of money that you can afford to pay.
Yeah.
And and like you were saying too, and what we talked about with Unicorn and the Fortnite Guy deal, it's about the longevity of the deal as well. How long can he use the code for? And a lot of our discussion too, to talk about for the viewers from me, was about how can we get past the idea of it costs this much money per tweet, it costs this much money per times I blink in the video, it costs me this much money to do a story, to say how can we make the commission worth it and the long-standing relationship so much worth it that we don't have to worry about this stupid conversation anymore of arguing over $100, $500, $1,000, where we can work together to make, like you were saying with that 15-year-old guy, 15 grand a month in merchandise sales, in profit. You know, how can we do 50 grand in merchandise sales, and how can we build that relationship? And it's really hard, and you and I both have experience with that. It's really hard to, I think, get that through the door. But once you build that relationship with the talent, like I have with Brian at Tech City when I work with him at Corsair, so much resistance from him at the start. He's like, oh, you're paying me less, you want me to do more, you're using me. And I'm going, Brian, just trust me, this is a long-term relationship. When you finally get that opportunity to do it, then I can fly him to Vegas. I flew him to Taiwan. I gave him 15 grand worth of tech to fit out his whole studio. Every quarter I was paying him more, or every 6 months when we renewed his contract, I was paying him more money every single time. And then after a year, he goes, Chris, you're right. I get it now. You know, it's about that long-term contract. But sometimes it's really hard to get in. And that's where I value my work, and that's where I value your work over a general, just, you know, for lack of a better term, bullshit agency, of which there are a lot, which just kind of sit as a middleman for the point of them sitting there. Whereas if you've got that, if you've befriended these influencers, you can have these relationships, you can pull the strings and make so much more money for Kieran, for the influencer, and for the brand than you would if you were just to cold reach out to them and say, hey, can you do 4 tweets? And they go, that's $4,000.
Yeah. So exactly. Like you said, kind of when we had that conversation with what you were explaining me about that extra $500, it kind of changed my perspective on influencers. And you know, man, $500 might not be worth it now, because if we're going to work for 6-12 months, that 500, like you said, can be 50,000 to 20,000, you know? So
yeah,
with that, I appreciate you, and I want to thank you for kind of changing my perspective on how to, when I approach brands now and influencers, how I kind of look at it. Instead of a dollar amount, I kind of look at it as like a relationship, and making sure that both, you know, all the middleman, the influencer, the brand, whoever's involved in the campaign, are all satisfied, and all are making as much as they want and can. So I thank you for that, and I think it's great that I learned that from you.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if this is the right term, but in my mind, it's kind of like total contract value or lifetime contract value. What's going to earn you more money, and will you back yourself in? You know, if you've got 160,000 Twitter followers, are you going to charge them an upfront $5,000 fee and no commission, or are you going to charge them an upfront $1,500 fee, which covers your time and makes it worth it, but a 50% commission that you can hopefully with them make 100 grand off, 50 grand, 20 grand, who knows? But the lifetime, not only the relationship, they'll keep coming back to you, but also lifetime contract value of how much you can generate through referral sales, which keeps them happy, keeps you happy, is so much higher than it ever would have been in the past. And that's what I've gone through a lot as an agency, talking to these brands, of wanting to charge them a lower retainer amount, which can justify me paying for a staff member to look after it. But we share in commission and or equity and or every single campaign, we get a percentage on top of work that we do too. So we're really backing ourselves in here. We're saying to the brand, look, you're going to pay a quarter of the amount with us as a retainer as you would with anyone else, but we're backing ourselves in here. But if we really pull this off for you, we want to be rewarded. If you're a small startup and we draw you 300 grand in monthly recurring revenue, like we want it. We want half a point of equity. You know, we want something out of this, or we want some solid commission, because otherwise we can just take that to someone else who will give us that. And that's what you're seeing a lot now with influencers. You know, I've talked in depth with Click, with the Misfits, who you know as well, with you and with some other talent about this too. In talent need to back themselves in, and don't just do pay for play anymore. Start asking for equity. start asking for trailing commission. If you've got 50 grand worth of advertising you think you can give to that company, and the company's quite small and they're only worth $1 million, why not just get them to pay you 10 grand and then ask for 40 grand in equity? Because they're probably pretty happy to do it, because like most startups, they're probably pretty cash strapped. So many small stage startups are happy to give away a little bit of equity to you, even if it's in options, rather than 40 grand, because they can't afford that 40 grand. And I'm going through that same conversation right now. There's a big influencer coming to Australia who's got like 2.8 million Twitter followers in Jan. And, this startup really wanted them to appear at their event, but they're like, man, I just can't afford the 80K AU price tag it costs. And it's like, give him some equity, sure, you take it. And then he's really invested too, because then he wants to grow your brand, because the more he grows your brand, the more his equity increases in the long run, right?
Yeah, and exactly, bringing it back to what you said about like agencies and you giving quarter of the retainer. What I would like to note on that as well is it kind of shows that you're invested in them. You're not trying to do this for money. You're showing them that, hey, I'm confident with my ability to make you money, so I'm taking less of a retainer, knowing that I will make you and myself more money in the long run. So it kind of gives them like, hey, like these guys are really looking to work with us. Like they're not here for a 5K retainer, a 30,000K retainer, right? It kind of just, it builds relationship between you and the brand as well as an agency. So I commend you for doing that, because I think that's things that agencies don't typically do anymore. They just don't reply. I think that agencies need to change the way that their business models are, because right now all they're doing is taking advantage of these creators and just sitting in the middle and taking commission from these creators. So I think that somebody or someone needs to change something within that structure to make it not only better for the agency, but for the influencers and the brand as well. Because I've spoke to influencers, kind of off topic, but they're kind of reluctant to go into these type of contracts or locked in for 3 years with these agencies, because they've had bad experiences with agencies before. All they tell me is, hey, Kieran, this a set agency is all they took was take 35% of my commission. Well, right there off the bat, 35%, I think it's way too much. I think the standard should at least go to minimum 15. And even if they're a macro influencer, I'm willing personally to take 10, because I know in the long run, like you said, building that relationship and working with them for over a period of years will be able to make me that money back, So I think something needs to change with the agencies and how it's running currently, because all they're doing is sitting on their asses and collecting commission off these influencers, which is also not fair.
Yeah, and I guess that's why a lot of these new influencers don't want to sign with the agencies anymore, like you were saying, and that's why you need someone who's on the influencer side, I think, to look after them.
Yeah. Something I do is I offer them kind of like, hey man, I'll show you what I can do. I'll give you outbounds. I'll do 6 months trial with you, or I do a year trial where you're just a non-exclusive. Whatever you get, you keep it to yourself because you worked hard for it. You've built up your brand. You've got those connections. I'll go out of my way, out of my time to go get you something else that I have connections to. So we're both bringing value to the table. You're already giving me a channel, and I'm going to bring you a brand that you haven't worked with. So why not be in a non-exclusive? But the only problem with non-exclusive is these guys like influencers start working with a bunch of agencies, then different pricing comes from everywhere, and then they don't know kind of who to work with. But with my guys, it kind of went to the point where I did the non-exclusive. It's gone to the point where it's just relationship now. It's so much trust between me and the influencer that we both are on the same page. I know exactly what we both want out of our partnership or relationship, I like to call it. So I think that's super important to what agencies, because all these guys are doing are calling these guys up, these influencers, offering them a 3-year contract. They don't know what they're getting themselves into. They sign off, and then they have a clause in there that says all brand deals that you get after 2 years of leaving us is all commission to us as well. And ridiculous kind of clauses inside of these contracts is just ridiculous. So I think trust and building relationship between influencers and agencies is very important, and is going to be very important in the next year or so.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Got a question here because we've got to wrap up soon. We're almost going for an hour, which is awesome. Got a question here from Shaggery Rayner. I hope I said that right. He's asking, is part of the issues with TikToks that is part of the issue with TikTok that brands have not yet bought onto the platform or bought into the platform? Short answer, yeah. I think brands don't understand, and that's what I love about my business, and what I hate about my business is that it's emerging, it's exciting, there's lots of views, there's lots of upside, there's lots of potential future growth, but it's very frustrating and hard because every single section of the industry I work in, you're trying to educate people who have the money on why they should give you the money rather than them approaching you just to give it to you. Like you're trying to help these mainstream brands understand, for me, esports. What is esports? What's an esports team? What do I get out of sponsoring one? Rather than them just saying, hey, Chris, we're looking for an esports team. Can you find me one? Yeah. You've got to start before zero. You got to start at -3, and then you got to get them to 0. And then if they're interested, then you can get them to close, which is maybe step 5. So you got that extra process. Similar with influencers, similar now with TikTok, who we're doing some work with as well. Do you find the same thing? Like, I mean, you said that the title of the stream and what we talked about is you did 300 grand a month. So what percentage of those were companies you'd already worked with in the past? What percentage of those were companies who approached you? And what percentage were companies that you just reached out and grabbed the deal for?
I would say out of that, the deals that out of those months, I would say around 85% of them was new partnership deals that I've done. But now obviously going into 2020 with those relationships, obviously it's going to only scale my business. But within that range that you're talking about 85% of it was new deals, so outbounds. And then about 5% was recurring deals that I did in the past, like, in a few months ago or something like that. And then 1 or 2 would be approaching me from hearing about me somewhere or getting my Twitter post. Because that's how initially the Chinese streaming platform contacted me. They emailed me saying, we saw your tweet. And I was like, what? And then I looked at my tweet, and a tweet had like, I think 5,500 likes. It had over 600,000 impressions and like 20% engagement rate or something. And all I tweeted out was, who wants to do Twitch or YouTube full time? That was my question. And it had 2.8 replies. I connected with influencers, brands that replied, every type of thing, like people that replied, and it kind of just started off from there. So some of the brands come from Twitter, actually, but now I'm trying to focus on LinkedIn and networking. I'm still getting a grasp of it, and I want to push content out on LinkedIn, but I'm unsure where to start. And I think that in 2020, LinkedIn is going to be super important to get those leads for myself.
Yeah, I think so. I think so for sure. I mean, for me, LinkedIn has been one of my main revenue drivers in my business. It's where I gained my investment. It's where I gained my first 2 companies that paid me over like $4,000, $5,000 AUD to do some work with them. And it's where I reached out to a lot of people. It's where I met Jade, TikTok star, 1.2 million followers herself, got 68 million views a month, did a LinkedIn live with her. That's been my biggest thus far. I think we hit, 100, 105 concurrents, which is big for LinkedIn. Most people are hitting 15, 17. I think we're probably at 18 to 20. So, her star power is ridiculous. And the growth for her using the same style of talent, which is not what you think, or style of content, which is not what you think LinkedIn would be for, which is more heartfelt, more influencer style content as well. Not so much, sure, she's sharing a lot of information, but still sort of selfies, pictures of her, that kind of stuff that you don't necessarily see from others. She's got 60,000 profile views in the past 90 days. That's ridiculous.
Yes.
Like she had, I remember talking to her account was 60 days old, and I think I had 8 to 10,000 profile views and she had 20, and it's in the past 90 days. So yeah. I had 30 days more than her and she had more profile views than me. And her graph was obviously 0, 0, 0, and then just spike. It's mental. And it's the same, my peaks and troughs and all that kind of stuff too. But like for anyone watching, abolish anything that you think about LinkedIn right now and just start posting content. Give content to people that teaches them something. I like to break down things that are happening so someone doesn't have to read the whole article, because they trust me to say, look, here are the main points of the article. Here's a little bit more information that I know about it. And, be open and honest with people. You don't have to flex like some of the old people do on LinkedIn. They post a picture of their watch with a BMW in the background. No one wants to see that anymore. Just share information and post more than you think that you should. I think
Yeah.
that's really like my two things. Like I used to be scared to post more than one time a day. There was always that golden rule, right? Of Twitter, you can post whenever you want because it's Twitter. Of Facebook, you can only post 2 times a day. Instagram, you can only post once a day. LinkedIn, you can only post once like every day or every 2 or 3 days. But man, just throw that out the window. Sometimes I post like 4 times in an hour on LinkedIn. One post will hit like 200 likes. The other ones will do 20 or something like that. But you never know. Sometimes they all do 60. Like it's, the algorithm's hard. But from what I understand, overall, the algorithm is favoring personal pages and user generated content. So don't share a link in the post. Just the same with Facebook. If you put a link in a Facebook post, you're basically killing it, shooting in the head before it goes anywhere. Share information, be authentic, use a video or a picture always, unless you're Gary Vee. Yeah, you're good to go. And you can be like Jade. I mean, the amount of inbounds that she gets now, the amount of inbounds that I get now, I had this discussion a lot with Nick, who works with us here at Big Esports, about inbounds. I wasn't a convert or a big believer in getting a lot of inbounds. I always thought you had to go out and grab them. He finally convinced me. I did a bunch more content. Now we've got more inbounds than we can ever deal with in our company. It's about closing them. It's about providing value and closing them. And that's LinkedIn. It's all because of LinkedIn. So I'm the biggest LinkedIn shill. I think they should start paying me. They don't, by the way. But I think it's a great place to be. If you want to get mass viewers of a younger audience, I think let's wrap up what we talked about today, right, Kieran? Like if you want to make bank off lower amount of views, YouTube. You want to engage with your fans, reach out to people, Twitter. You want to get massive amount of views. You don't care who they come from, especially if they're primarily younger people, TikTok. You want to reach out to business people, LinkedIn. And you want to build a group and a community, Facebook groups. There you go. There's your answer.
Yeah, that's your answer in a nutshell right there.
Eat your heart out. Fantastic. And for anyone in the chat too, I linked your Twitter as well, Kieran, so someone can check you out there. Tell me, back to the start of the conversation, what was that first video about? Your first ever video you released on YouTube got 400,000 views, which is ridiculous. It doesn't happen very often.
It was a Clash of Clans videos. I knew that Clash of Clans was popular 2016, 2014, 2016 era. And I posted it was kind of like a bass build. So it was kind of music in the background. Saw a guy post a video like that. It did well. Kind of builded my own bass on it, posted it, and man, like it just blew up. It had like really good engagement. And then from there, I posted a few videos, got like 300 views because my channel was dead. It was kind of a one pop off type of video. And then I got 2 videos in a row at 1 million views. My face reveal got 1 million. And then another one got 1 million with like 60K likes on them. And then it went decent for a bit. And then it went downhill like it always does. And then I just quit. But maybe one day I'll return to it. I don't know yet. But for now, I love working with influencers and building relationships with talent, brands, agencies, people like yourself. It's always great to learn and network with people. So once again, I appreciate you taking the time to obviously reach out to me, speaking to me. We're working on our second deal together in the past month or so. So I think it's great what we're doing. And I think that it's going to not only help the brands and the influencers, but it's helping ourselves learn from each other. And I think that myself and you are going to have a great relationship in 2020 and see what we can do together.
Yeah, it should be good. Well, maybe this next LinkedIn Live, we do it in person when you're here in Melbourne in January. You're down to see the
exactly. Hopefully I come in January,
Yeah, that'd be good, man. Well, to wrap up, we talked about this in bits, and this is a question I get asked all the time. So I'd love for you to give some direct examples before we answer some last questions. So if a YouTuber has 100,000 subscribers, 500,000, 1 million, and 5 million, how much can they expect to make per month at each of those milestones? What do you think is a good amount that those people could make per month?
Off of commercial revenue, what I can make them?
Yeah. And let's say it's a mixture of ad revenue and ad revenue and deals. Just normalize it throughout.
All right. The average 100K person could make anywhere between, from my experience, I would say one-off collaborations, maybe 5 to 6K, charging around 1.5K average around, with obviously the AdSense that depends on your views. So maybe like 3 to 8K off of that per month, and then go into your 500K. That's when the big money kind of comes in. where you have longer partnerships. There's 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. You also have your one-off collaborations, which can also increase. To the Fortnite guy, I made him over 26 or 28K in less than a month and a half by working with you, another brand, and a charity that we're currently running right now. So if it's different, but those guys can between 500K can make anywhere easily between 20 and 100K a month if they really know what they're doing and working with the right people. And then obviously into the millions. I mean, that's all over the place. It really depends what you're doing and how you're doing it, whether that's merchandise, events, appearances, whatever it is. That's when the avenues get really crazy, and you need to make sure that you're capitalizing on the right thing and doing what you like instead of doing what the money comes, because the money is going to come after what you like doing at the end, right? It's not if you chase the bag or whatever for 100K for a deal. If you don't like it, you're not going to enjoy it. But if you enjoy something in the long run, the money's going to come after. So just be patient. And I think that's something that influencers need to learn, because they become really greedy and impatient because they get so attached to this hook of money and fame, that I think that they need to take a step back, self-reflect, and kind of detach themselves from their lives on the internet, right? So those are kind of the numbers that I think they should be able to make if they know what they're doing. Their CPM is decent. They don't have any controversial anything about them. Just like a decent, genuine, good guy or good woman that's making content. So at the end of the day, my goal is to make the money. But with that is building trust, relationship, and of course having fun while we're doing it, because this industry is only growing. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it from my side.
Yeah, too easy, man. So I got a question here. This one's for me that I'll read out from Aravind. So he's asking, how different is the approach when you're working with professional esports players and esports influencers / streamers? My answer to that, Aravind, would be to go to big esports on YouTube, or go into my stream or go into my feed on LinkedIn and look at the podcast I did with PPD, Peter PPD Dagger from Ninjas in Pajamas, ex-EG CEO. He's made $3 million in Dota 2 prize money over his 8-ish years, I think, as a pro gamer. He talks about this a lot. He talks about basically that a lot of pro players, they're hyper focused on playing, especially in Dota, because all the money you can make in Dota is prize pool. Everything else is defunct, because you really want to win first place at international, get $3 million in your pocket per player, and then right off into the sunset. Spending time tweeting, spending time streaming will take away from you playing as a top level player. So you're much better off going to that. So keeping that into mind with these guys, because we talked about this a lot in there, but I think it's a lot of us versus them. I think it's esports, business people like myself and Kieran versus the players, and us thinking you can be making so much money. All you have to do is spend 20 hours a week making content. And they go, I could be winning the international if I spend an extra 20 hours a week playing. So no, not a chance. Yeah. So there's always that divide. But hey, that's why you have different lenses in the community. So yeah, definitely go back and look. And a big shout out to Herb May as well. We talked a lot about LinkedIn. Herb May is one of the biggest success stories of LinkedIn, I think, coming from nothing really in esports to really something within 6 to 12 months purely off LinkedIn. He's the best esports success story that I've seen so far.
Yeah,
doing any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So Kieran, I haven't actually met him, but I've seen him around. I've seen what he's doing, and I congratulate him on that. I always see him. I know you guys are good buddies, and I've seen what he's posting, and seeing what he's been doing and posting is insane. And that's where I want to bring my own personal brand, and obviously in a unique way. Obviously I don't want to take off what he's done, but his kind of hard work and his skills that he's applied into LinkedIn is ridiculous. So something like that is super inspiring to see how someone can integrate themselves so well into the industry without really knowing anything much about it, a few months ago. So I congratulate him for that, and yourself for helping him out, because I know I think that you also were a big part of that as well, because I think you've helped a ton of people on LinkedIn. I think you've helped Jade. I think you've helped her, but you've helped myself, not necessarily on the contents, but behind the scenes. You have genuine conversations with me. You take your time to talk to me, call me, tell me advice, so it's super grateful and great to have someone like yourself helping these guys, whether it's LinkedIn, because at the end of the day that you will benefit off of me, let's say, from my influencers in the long run. And it's just, once again, going back to building a relationship. You're just doing the exactly same what I'm doing with my influencers. You're doing it with businessmen. So I think it's great what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's all full circle, right? It all comes back around, and it's whether you have a good relationship with people that you don't talk to very often, or whether it's you have a good relationship you keep in contact every day. And that's what I feel that I'm able to rely upon. I often wonder what the terminology is, because someone will talk about the misfits, and I'll say I'm friends with them, and go, well, I'm not really friends with them, but you could say I'm acquaintances. I'm friendly with Ryan, the manager. I'm friendly with a few of their talent. Anytime they see me, they stop to shake my hand and ask me how I am. But it's not like I'm in their DMs every day.
Yeah.
Their office is only 10, 15 minutes from me. I only went there for the first time like a month ago. So, but they know that I'm there to look after them every time. I'm not going to bring them a crap deal. And that's part of the thing for me, is that trying to explain to people that there's influencers rely on their social capital. And I also have a certain amount of social capital as a business person in there. And I can't just go to them all the time being like, hey, can you promote this new butt enhancement cream? I need to know that they find the deal that's worthwhile. And I also need to know that the deal is likely to close, because I only have so many opportunities to waste their time before they're like, man, I can buy a Ferrari with one video. Stop wasting my time.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So there's it's a certain amount of thing. And you see this in business. You see this when, I've been invited to parties where successful people hang out, and it's so different. No one's trying to flex on each other, because they all know that they're successful, and they're all asking each other real advice, or they're just talking about things that are completely unrelated to business. And that's what you find with influencers. They don't want you to be a fan of them. They want you to talk to them like a real person, but you have to hang with them. You need to know the lingo. You need to have something that you can bring to the table, because they don't want you to just be there and, take selfies and tag them and, try to get them to retweet you and kind of stuff. You just need to hang there and just be chill and, build that relationship.
Yeah. And I think that that helps with me being a young guy. Some of these guys are around the same age as me, 19, 20, 17, 18, 19, 20. Most of them are around that age. So being able to talk like me, yes, it gives them a little bit of doubt. There's always a negative and a positive. The positive is I know how to talk to these guys. I know how to talk to get these guys to get deals. I know how to convince them that, it's not a scam. You're taking good care of, I just know how to be a good person to them, because I relate to them. I'm the same age as them. I almost do the same thing, other than they create content and I do business. But the negative side is obviously when my age is mentioned in meetings, or they ask me how old my age is. I'm applying for a job. Like one of these esports guys, actually, quick story. I did a job. I'm not going to name the company, but they were a huge European esports company. They were looking for a senior influencer manager to oversee their whole kind of content and influencer strategy. So I gave it a go. I applied. Right off the bat, they called me, asked my age. And they just hung up because I told them I was 17 at the time. It was back in October. Wow. But that's the point where I thought that maybe it could have been a good opportunity for them to work with a younger person and take that risk. But I mean, once again, there's always a reason for it. I understand where they're coming from. Trusting a 17-year-old guy with a $10,000 budget, it's kind of risky. He can just take that and leave and close all his accounts, right?
Yeah.
So, like you said, building relationship with brands, saying, listen, showing them case studies and things that I've done in the past to give them that security of that I know kind of what I'm doing. I'm obviously still learning. I'm only 18, so I'm still learning, always learning. I'm not perfect by any means, but building that relationship, being such a young age is super important for myself, because it's easier for me to get screwed over by a brand or a business due to my age, because of my lack of experience. And I've been turned down before because of my lack of experience, but that comes with age anyways. So that's a little bit about the negative and the positives of being such a young, I guess, businessman or business person.
Yeah. And you and I have talked about that. And I talked about the same thing with our other director here at Big Esports yesterday, when we're, looking to bring you on board to do a lot more work with us next year, and in a partnership type sense. And, saying that it's the merit of what you can do, not how old you are. And it's about understanding the value of of where the skills can be developed in the future and the skills that are developed up till today. You know, the same reason that when I was at Thermaltake, I brought on Jeremy Tate to work under me, who eventually took over after I left, because I sponsored his esports team, only with products, but I could see that, you know, he was respectable, he was reliable, he could do great content, he understood how to do a product launch, he was always at meetings on time, he was always accessible, you know, excuse me, he had a good speaking voice and all that kind of stuff. So I knew that he had that flavor there that could be, you know, that starter culture, I guess, that, you know, could be developed into something great. And he did. Yeah. He learned so quickly, so fast, took over from me afterwards, went to MSI now, and he's got a great career there. You know, similar with Ross, who chose to take over me at Corsair from Gigabyte. Same thing. And now he's one of the senior management. I think he's a senior talent manager at Click Management. He's a talent manager there now anyway. And he'll do great with them. Yeah. You know, he's got all the contacts. And the same thing, he came into Gigabyte straight from university. And he's got like a master's in teaching and the master's in special education. Nothing to do with gaming at all, but he's great. He's really boisterous. He's really nice and kind. He's like a gentle giant. He's funny, you know, but he knows how to do business at the same time. He's great at talking with the influencers and speaking their language and hanging out because he makes YouTube videos on the side. But also he knows how to enter a boardroom and to give a report and to answer questions and stuff. And I think that's, you know, that's where I see where you're sitting right now, is that, you know, you can definitely speak the language of the streamer side, and then it's just more development on the business side you need. And at this stage, how we do it is often, you know, there's a double filter where I might talk to the influencer and talk to you, and I talk to the brand, and then you're talking to the influencer and me. And there's kind of that thing there. But as the skills start to develop more, like, you know, within 6, 12 months, whatever, that's going to go away, and you're going to be able to, you know, do it all yourself from start to finish. You already are in most of the cases anyway. It's tightening up, you know, it's just the same with boxing, going from amateur to pro. You've already got the skills. You just need to tighten up a little bit and, you know, you're good to go. You just need that starter culture, right? And that's hard to pick out sometimes from people, but you have it. In esports, Herb has it. Jade has it, which is why I'm doing work with her as well. You know, you can spot these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool, man. So well, actually, we already talked about what's coming up next for you. So where can people follow you online if they want to see what you're doing?
They can follow me. Only social media that I use for business and gaming wise is Twitter and LinkedIn. So my Twitter is ThePrestigeYT. That was my name. I never thought of changing it. I kind of want to change it to like Kieran something, but whatever. I'm stuck with that name. So it's ThePrestigeYT, and then LinkedIn is Kieran John. That's all I have right now. Don't really use anything else. So if you want to connect with me on those, that'd be great. And once again, I appreciate you, Chris, taking me on, you know, believing in me, actually, you know, working with me, because I'm just learning from you, and it's great to learn from such a, you know, great guy like you, because you've done some great stuff yourself, and I praise you for that. And you're one of the inspirations. I've learned a ton of knowledge. So shout out to Big Esports Podcast as well. Those guys, I've watched all 60, I think 60 something of them, 64 if I'm correct. So I watch all of them. I've learned so much, especially from the Jeff from FaZe, because I like to really get into those kind of when they talk about influencers and brands, just to grab the knowledge. But I also learned about, you know, the financial stuff, esports sponsorships, and all those different type of things. So it's just good to know whenever I'm faced with that opportunity or something in the future.
Exactly, man. Yeah, thanks for coming on, and, you know, thanks to the people for watching live on the LinkedIn and also listening to the podcast. It's going to be turned into some special shout outs to people jumping in: Chris Laurent, Tyler Boronsky, Zach, Marcus Howard, Shagari Raynor, Aravind, Maravi, Paulo, Chris Kisek back once again, Scott Nicholson, awesome to see you here as well, mate. I will reply to your email, I promise. Josh Estero, Jocelyn V, another TikTok influencer in here at 117K and growing. So hopefully we can take her doing some brand deals soon. The one and only mentor, Carl Flores, Chris Reed, another fantastic podcaster for the Level Up podcast, and so many more people tuning in. Thanks for the support, and hopefully we can do some more LinkedIn Lives fairly soon. Thanks for coming on, Kieran, and we'll keep chatting.
Yeah.
Takes a couple